What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we continue our coverage of Apple TV Plus's Murderbot. Today we are covering Season 1, Episode 3, titled Risk Assessment. Luke, I'll let you go first. I'm not going to say what do you do go. I'm going to say, what'd you think of the episode?
You weren't ready to replace that on the spot.
I didn't know what to say, dude.
Yeah, so this was a fun episode. I think we have a little bit more of an idea of how the pacings of this show is going to be. This was the shortest episode of the series already. I think it was only 22 minutes runtime. So when I watched it first, I was thinking like, how are we going to get a full podcast conversation around this? But we're going to do our best. We're going to say what we liked, disliked, maybe throw some theory guesses on the board because the end couple of scenes do lend itself to some guesses there. But this is a perfect opportunity for us to bump the community, the YouTube and the Discord and the Twitter, everybody, everywhere that people are listening to us, they're commenting and sending things to us, either clarifying or just giving reviews. And for the most part, very nice. And there's definitely some things I singled out on that I wanted to read right now. And then I'm not sure if you guys have both had a chance to read all the YouTube comments, but this one comes from @AbnerHolsinger, and this is on YouTube. This is going to be like a couple sentences here, but it kind of answers a lot of what we were talking about on the first podcast. So what he said was, I don't think it's spoilery to explain what a construct is. SecUnits and comfort units are constructs. Constructs are like cyborgs, but all the organic parts are cloned tissue derived from human DNA. They aren't human and they never were human. And their DNA isn't identical to human DNA. Instead, it's altered to work better with their synthetic parts. So it's a little bit of a mix like a cyborg. They're mostly synthetic, but they have an organic brain and organic skin over a synthetic structure. They are all sentient and are all self-aware, but are still held hostage by the government module, which will cause them intense pain or death if they disobey the orders. So they're essentially a manufactured slavery, similar to what we were talking about. And then the last thing they went on to say is the reason for the organic brain is because it's cheaper than a fully synthetic brain. And the reason for the organic skin is to make them easier for humans to interact with since they look mostly human. So a lot of that kind of stems from our conversation of why would you even give them these weaknesses? And we were really hypothesizing what was going on with Murderbot having the ability to have those independent thoughts before he broke the government module. So that kind of all lines up, and it actually answers a lot of plot hole questions. And I can't even call them plot hole questions. It's just they didn't have time to explain them to us. But a lot of the other comments were saying that the books really do dive into the specifics of these. And they think that it's probably something that because of the tone of the show and the length of these episodes, it's going to be hard for them to convey that because you're not really getting the first person point of view from Murderbot. So that was the first thing I wanted to say there. Is there anything you guys want to just comment there? Anything surprising? Does it all kind of line up with what we were expecting?
No. As in not surprising. Glad someone said that. And I'm glad you just read it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I was very surprised at all of the amazing comments we got just from these first two episodes. Usually it takes a little bit for the TV show to hit and for us to be found, for everyone to start giving us these comments. And my goodness, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. Guys, if you want to talk to us even more directly, join our Discord, bingetowntv.com/Discord. Luke's got other comments, and they're all really awesome. They're all really helpful.
Yeah, so this next one I'm going to bring up hits on a couple of other things, and this is on Twitter or X @MW99456. They reached out to us and said, little background on Murderbot. So far, it's been pretty faithful to the adaptation in big picture. They're showing his face a similar amount to the book, and I have a follow-up comment for that. Another thing he went on to say is the corporation rim is just a huge area of space dominated by very powerful corporations. That's kind of what we were in line with. So and then some other comments, not specifically this tweet, says that we could just say the corporation or the company, whatever. It's fine. Like it's all kind of meaning the same thing. Went on to say things like that the preservation, which is where the main crew is from, they operate with laws and morality a lot similar to our own, just outside of the corporation rim. I think we knew that. And then the last part of their tweet was, with regard to SecUnits, the biological cybernetic brain makes them more creative, smarter, more creative and smarter than pure AI beings in the universe. So it's another advantage for having them be a little bit of a cyborg. So if you suggest to a sec unit to sit, it can decide not to if there's a higher priority, like protecting the crew. But if you order it to, it has to. So that's a lot of information there. But I think that's ironing out some of the rules that we at Bingetown kind of like to have some of that world building. And then the last thing I'll bring up, and then we can just open it up to the actual episode, is this was on YouTube. I don't have the exact comment, but people were talking about why we were surprised, or commenting on the fact that we were, as non-book readers, like our reactions to people freaking out about Alexander Skarsgård being the face and showing it so often. In the books, it's never described what his face actually looks like. So that's what made some of the hardcore book readers a little annoyed at the trailer, the teaser trailer, is because it's always open for interpretation. That Murderbot can look like exact anybody. It could be anything. And it's just, now that it's like has a face, is a little bit of like a unavoidable change from the books, because you're going to have somebody do this, because it is still something that happens constantly in the books. And then the last piece again is, we have to be careful not to call Murderbot he, and just refer to it as it, because it is going to be a plot line.
Okay. Yeah. I think that I want to get, well, let me just start that again. I want to give a shout out to MWill, because they've hit us up on multiple TV shows with great information. So thank you. And there is a lot of awesome stuff here. I am assuming that the TV show will hopefully give us some of this. They started episode 3 with some of these answers and explanations, and that's why it's not a huge spoiler. And one of the YouTube comments, like you said, Luke, did say this isn't spoilery, and it isn't, because we just found out anyway. So no big deal at all. When you were asking if I'm surprised, I'm definitely not surprised that there is an explanation that was given in the books. I don't know if I'm necessarily surprised about what the explanation is. I mean, we were theorizing it as a people that were changed into androids. So I didn't have that answer. So I'm glad that we have it. And like you said, it starts the episode with that explanation.
Okay, episode time. I think we can just kind of open this up, because it's really pretty quick. It all kind of happens at one setting where I guess there is the 2 setting piece of it. And Jimmy, man, you got to get some flowers for calling out that Gura has some weird thing going on for the leader or expedition. I did not see this coming, but it does kind of make sense with his character being so awkward and the least connected to the humanity of all, because he has all these augmentations. But yeah, anything you want to say? Because you called that out right away from the weirdness of episode, I guess it was 1 or 2.
Yeah, I believe it was episode 2. I was seeing chemistry between the both of them, or maybe weirdness between the both of them. I think right now it only looks like it's one-sided, but we'll find out. But I'll take any flowers I can get, man.
Yeah, I mean, the one-sided nature, and will probably jump us into a slightly separate topic here, but she even mentions later on, Menza, that she has multiple spouses.
Yes, she does.
Which feels like
Ruark.
We say this,
the Ruark of space,
typical, let's say, of like a commune type of environment. Of these are the hippie scientists. They have multiple spouses, and we're also seeing the Pinley, Arata, and Rati of it all. But I thought that conversation that she drops that in was very interesting. There were just some things like that they just dropped in small bits, I think, throughout this episode, especially on the kind of the journey over. Of like, we know that now we've learned that some people within Preservation Alliance kind of want to join Corporation Rim, because the way that they're living right now isn't very economically feasible. We have Rati even mentions the part about like the human DNA and the kind of slavery angle that we've kind of already talked about. And then we have I think the concept too of Murderbot, like watching the TV shows, feels less of like a comedic thing and more actually like a meta thing. Like we talked about a little bit at the end of our last recording of how he'll learn things, and things like that. So while the episode was quick and it was largely just kind of on the ship and the conversations, versus again, we got the action stuff at the end, I thought there was a lot of interesting things that were dropped throughout it.
I agree. I think that throughout the episode, I don't want to reiterate everything you said, Kyle, but they did do a lot of good world building throughout conversations that may be going very, very quickly with a 22-minute episode, but there's enough for me to be taking notes. Like you said, Mensa says, I have multiple spouses. That is something that is world building for this television show, for this actual Murderbot world. And when it comes to the binging, I am taking it as it's funny for me, but I know what you're saying. And I was starting to get what you were talking about, Luke, in the last episode, the last podcast episode. Is this distracting him at all? Because in the one scene when they are talking to him, he's binging one of his shows. And I do think it's hilarious when it's actually showing him binging it. But they ask him a question, and you can take it two different ways. You could take it as he's distracted because he's binging his show, or he kind of says, oh, they're talking to me, because they're not used to being talked to casually if it's not in order. So I don't know how you guys took it. I'm still on the fence on if the binging is distracting him or not. What did you think?
Well, after reading the comments, it's more about the fact that robots in general are never talked to. They're never really
Right,
addressed besides
exactly.
giving commands. So yeah, so I guess it's a combination of I watched it a couple days ago, plus with the comments stuck in my head. It's now more about like he's still just adapting to this environment and being treated like a person, because they're never sec units are never. I guess comfort units are in a way, but it's really more about the physical, what they can do for people. But the sec units are just complete, or I think they were described in one of the comments as just a like an appliance, right?
Yeah,
Like
basically like a droid in Star Wars. I remember they said in the comments.
exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the TV show watching for me this episode, I wasn't thinking of it from that sense. I think, more honed in on the content itself. It's a
Okay.
different
Yeah.
TV show. You're strifing the galaxy, but both things that it's watching, both clips that we see that it's watching, are kind of hinting at the idea of sec unit autonomy. The
Right.
first clip is about like control and what they can be forced to do, and then the second one, as I try to make my words last longer as I'm trying to read the things that I have on my screen here. Um, wow. The consequences. It's like the judge talking about the consequences of like man and machine and kind of melding them together and all of this stuff. And that just seems very purposeful to
Yeah.
me.
Agreed.
We know that Murderbot got rid of the government control module. So it's Jay chilling in this kind of gray area. It's enjoying the level of autonomy that it has, but it's also creating some issues for it. But it just seems very purposeful, the clips that they're showing us it's watching.
Yeah, I would like to know how accurate the timing of seeing these clips are relative to the books, but that's something for a later conversation. I just think that it's just a genius way of trying to make him relate, like force him to relate to the situations that are playing out in front of him. But this is the first episode where I think everybody that's not Gura is starting to clock the weirdness more than before, where it all kind of is his own fault when he just accidentally overshares and says that he's been checking the logs, and they immediately assume that the corporation or the company is having him spy on them, and he doesn't really know how to react. And then I think they even go on to say, like, I forget what the question is that Roddy asks him when he pauses for like a full 4 seconds. He's like, was that the
Yes.
you don't mean us any harm or something like that, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then he pauses, and then they clock. They're like, "You took a really long time to answer that," and he
And
just
his
kind of
response
turns
is,
away.
"Yep."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I did.
they are starting to clock it, but I think Mensa is really playing the mediator here, because the next scene is her trying to relate again to him, and then she overshares about her past, which then causes him to shut down and walk away in like a really awkward fashion. So she's going to be the most important key, because now I'm thinking about it. If Gura is actually in love with her and she has this full trust in Murderbot, I think that could be a pathway forward for him to find it in his heart to kind of try and care about him just for Mensa's behalf. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing. And I don't like when Roddy and the others are starting to question him, because I didn't expect it to go that way, but they're right to question him after some of the things that happened this episode.
Well, when you say it in a negative sense, but I feel like it could be a positive thing, and that Roddy is saying, I like it better to treat him as a person. He like I feel like it would be the reactions, I think, would be varied, but it seems like Roddy, Arata, even Menza, if they find out that Murderbot is more man than machine a little bit at this point with his autonomy and the way that he can think and act with a level of free will, they would almost be kind of accepting of it. It feels like, I mean, we get before they get on the hopper, and Menza says to Murderbot, take the helmet off. I want everyone to think that you're part of the team. And it almost feels like this environment would be accepting, or also they could be, is it going to be a commentary on Preservation Alliance has these ideals, but like when the rubber meets the road of, okay, you're confronted with a sec unit that actually doesn't have a government control module and has a level of autonomy and can really do what it wants, how are you actually going to respond to that? You know, we
Right.
got a
Are
little
you
bit
actually?
of that. Yeah. We talked, I mentioned it, 5 minutes ago, of there's people within Preservation Alliance that kind of want to stop living the way they live because it's not economically feasible. So, you know,
Yeah.
what happens when your back is against the wall in different ways, and how can you actually respond to that? Are you going to stick to your principles, or will you react in a different way? I think they could be setting us up for a confrontation like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you actually comfortable with autonomy or not? Right. And something that we brought up last episode, it's convenient because the writing made it so, but they are the perfect group for him to go to and to be assigned to while he has the government module jailbroken, if for lack of a better term, because number one, as far as we know, they would accept it if they find out. But number two is they don't know any better as of now about these sec units and how they really should be acting and how they should act towards it, because there's some funny scenes throughout this episode, especially with Roddy, where he wants to say, "Come on, man, come on, get in here, you little bastard." You know, like, put your hand in. Let's be part of the team. And it's like, you're right, dude, in its head, and everyone's like, "No, no, no, you don't need to apologize." Trying to act like it's one of the team, but Murderbot doesn't want to be one of the team at all, and while I think that the obvious story here, the obvious trajectory is that Murderbot will, evolve with its autonomy, where, maybe they do find out that the module has been broken, they accept that, and then
Yeah.
it accepts the fact that it can be part of a group, and instead of breaking off and fleeing by itself, it joins this group and they go on the adventures together.
I totally think that's what's gonna happen. But that seems almost too lighthearted and optimistic, unless we maybe lose one or two people along the way. But I want to bring the question then to why Murderbot reacted the way he did when Mensa started talking about her family. Was it just he just didn't want to deal with the personal
Yeah.
background, or was there anything deeper where it actually was like a trigger to something?
No, I just think that it really doesn't care and doesn't want any kind of
Okay.
connection. It's module's broken, so personally it can do whatever the hell it wants, but that doesn't mean that it wants to change everything it's ever known and want to be having this human connection with these people as of now. I wonder if that is a red flag to Mensa, just because, again, we know that from the YouTube comments, they can technically do what they want as long as it's not disobeying a direct order. Would it be very, very normal or very, very awkward for a sec unit to just be like, "All right, you're talking about personal shit. I'm out of here. Talk to you later." Like, that was very abrupt and very awkward. It gives the excuse of, "I'm going to go check the ammunitions or the munitions," which is okay. And she's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And she's obviously a little shook because she wanted to connect with
Yeah.
Murderbot. I don't know if that was something that was supposed to be very awkward as a sec unit human connection scenario.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting to the concept that you bring up of what does it really want? It doesn't want to be with the group. It doesn't want to be acid bathed to death. It wants to watch TV, but like, given no parameters, given full autonomy to do whatever, what would it actually choose? Would it just stand on a
Yeah.
planet
No.
and watch TV endlessly? You know, like, would it seek connection with other jailbroken sec units? Like, would it? I don't know, because it's interesting. I only bring that up in the sense of, because we get at the end of this where we meet a similarly but not exactly the same level of sec unit, in that it's granted an additional level of autonomy, or it's able to break out of,
Overridden.
the rigid
Yeah.
parameters of how it can act. And is that going to be that we're going to be introduced to a group of them that are doing that? And is it going to be a temptation to join or then choose Preservation Alliance people? You know, I'm interested to see how Murderbot's, let's say, desires, interests maybe evolve. Because right now it's enjoying the level of like, I can just watch TV. Like, this is great. As long as they don't fucking talk to me, like I'm killing it right now. But like, will there be more than that? Is it capable of more passion, desire, emotion than that?
I think everything is that I'm basing my thoughts on his path forward are all around what he was saying as a narrative in the beginning of episode 1 and as they get onto the planet. He, one, you're right, just wants to avoid the acid bath, but two, he needs to protect these people so that he has a way off the planet so that he can eventually, I think, escape.
Flee. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So right now he's just about get these people out of there and alive so that he can get off this planet, this backwater planet, so then he can eventually do whatever he wants, which I think at the end of the day just boils down to watching TV.
Yeah.
By
Like,
himself.
Is the escape to then escape to a corner of the universe where he can be left alone and just sit and watch TV forever? You know,
Possibly.
Will that
So-
goal shift and evolve and develop?
Right. So we see in the beginning, very, very beginning, it breaks the module. And then when we get back to the corporation or we're introduced to the corporation, Murderbot's like, well, I've been doing the same shit forever. I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just went back to the corporation. And like you said, Luke, the plan is to hopefully do what it's got to do with this group and then flee. And my take is exactly what you're saying, Kyle. If it can flee, it will flee and it will do what it wants. And what it wants is to probably be left alone to watch TV, but to also be out of the corporation's eyes so that it can not have to do what anybody tells them it to do at any point, right? Like the holding the hand over the fire and all that kind of stuff. Like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want. And probably for now, it's watch TV, which, you know, I don't blame it. But I'm seeing this almost like a Westworld scenario where as time goes on, as it gets used to the human connection with the government module being broken, it can develop maybe feelings or, you know, because they bring it up pretty early. Do you feel feelings? What do you feel? Can you feel anything? Right. I think that feelings could be developed. I think that, and I'm not saying romantic, it could just be friendship, whatever it is. And the human connection or the personal connection, I think, will be the evolution. And it is possible now that it's jailbroken. It just doesn't want that right now.
He's going to join. I'm sorry. It's going to join a resistance movement, I think, eventually. This is my crackpot theory of the episode. Let's keep it going. 3 episodes in, we're just throwing crazy shit around. It's going to join some resistance movement against the concept of the enslavement, let's say, of the SecUnits and robots, and then also the forced toilage of the bottom rungs of human society that are forced to work for the corporation rim to be able to survive and be housed. That's how we're going to go in the story. That's what's going to develop his emotion. He's going to fall in love with some other revolutionary, or maybe that's what it's going to be. It's going to be some sexy, sensual unit that has also broken the chains of enslavement of the government module, and he's going to feel the passions, and that's what's going to rope him into the resistance movement, and that's what's going to be.
I'll take the field.
Yeah.
That's fine, baby.
All I got to say is that I don't remember what I was going to say. So
Because it was such a good theory.
That is all I got to say at this moment. But it is 7 books, so I assume it can't just be, hey, I'm joining this group. We have a good time together and let's ride off into the sunset. So I can obviously see what you're saying, Kyle, with some kind of rebellion or revolution against the corporation and their actions towards, you know, the SecUnits, comfort units, etc.
Well, we see Preservation Alliance might split.
Yeah.
You know, some of them join the corporation, and then we're even bigger underdogs. And who is this mysterious SecUnit in black? Is it a SecUnit? Is it actually a human being that's dressed up in a suit? I mean, who let that other SecUnit override the combat module? Who is doing those things? Who has a motivation? and the technology to go against the people that were in the other habitat and doing the studies. If not someone that's maybe anti-corporation. Were those people Preservation Alliance? I don't remember. Like that died.
I don't think they clarified. They called them Deltfall, and
Okay.
they were not in communication with them. So even if they were Preservation Alliance, I don't think they were like friends. I don't know how big Preservation Alliance actually is, but who knows? But let's just keep opening the conversation up to all this, because this is really the rest of the episode. I think the only other thing to comment is BW has some PTSD back at the
Mhm.
back in the
Right.
the habitat, but like that's probably going to play out more as she gets more screen time next episode. But in terms of just like where they land, I did really like the fauna that we got going on there. We even got some crabs that remind me of the Way of Kings. Shout out Brandon Sanderson. Like I was getting some good alien environment there, I'll say. But in terms of what's happening here, he's pretty avidly against being honest to the group here, right? Like he is lying more outwardly and directly than he has been. At least like in terms of like when he's communicating with them, he's cutting off the static. He's telling them like, just ditch me, whatever. He wants to go in and find out what's going on here. And Kyle, I'm happy you brought it up, because in the title sequence, you called out the group of the Black Sec units, and that's exactly what we have here. And remind me, because I only watched it the first time, there was multiple of them in the title sequence, right? Like, was it a grouping? Okay, so
Yes.
that is definitely an interesting thing for us to guess on. If we do think what Kyle's whole grand plot he just laid out for the show could be in that way. It could straight up just be a non-jailbroken other sec units that are just owned by an evil entity that isn't the corporation. It could even just be the corporation's like black agents that are just going under the radar and do like the FBI covert or the CIA covert ops stuff. There's a lot of possibilities here, but thoughts? What are your guys' initial takes on that whole ending scene?
Well, I think that, like you said, Luke, Murderbot is very much having fun with its autonomy here. I love the scene where it's saying, "Yep, that's me causing the static. I'm bullshitting them." It wanted to check it out, right? And it's saying, "Oh, I should go back. I should go back." I like how they have the screen that comes in front of Murderbot, so you can see it analyzing everything, whether it's people or the locations. It enters the location, it's unlocked, able to come in immediately. You see the massacre, the slaughter. You see the sec unit that was destroyed, which we saw as the viewers at the end of last episode. And as the viewer, but also as Murderbot, you're wondering like what can do that to a sec unit to totally put it offline. Sec unit only, Murderbot only admits to the group that the sec unit is offline, just one of them. And then after that, it plays the static and says, "I'm just going to take care of this. You guys need to go back." I mean, I could have called it a million miles away that the one was faking it,
Yeah.
but Murderbot, as someone analyzing the situation, said that I believe it knew that there was 3 sec units in this location. 2 of them looked like they took each other out. One was destroyed big time. The one was faking it. The one attacks. I liked the battle sequence where you can see Murderbot able to predetermine what's going to be next. Is that part of the autonomy, do you think, that it's able to read what should be happening next? Because why wouldn't the more technologically advanced Murderbot sec unit be able to do it better than it? So I'm assuming it has to do with the government module.
It
Maybe.
makes sense, because he also goes on to reference the fact that they're more advanced, superior models, and if they weren't damaged, they would have kicked his ass. But that doesn't really play well with the ability to use the autonomy to then predict the future and see like the battle play out, because that would mean that even if it wasn't damaged, he should have won. But he did call that out.
And my wonder here is, if you're a sec unit owned by the corporation or others, is there something with the government module where other sec units can't attack each other? Why would, if you're the corporation, why would you let sec units attack each other? You would only, I mean, I know you're selling them to people, but at the same time, I would assume there would be some protocol that says you can't use a sec unit against another sec unit, because that would be destroying their own product. So the fact that Murderbot is broken, and we know that this one was overridden, and they actually bring up the violence override, maybe they don't even usually have the opportunity to read each other's battle sequences or whatever you want to say to throw down. But either way, Murderbot did not anticipate this fourth person / sec unit to show up, and I thought of you right away, Kyle, with the black sec unit and the intro, like you said. Is this another sec unit? Is this a human / person in a suit? I'm not sure. And I don't think we're supposed to really be able to guess anything right now, because it's just like talking about the anomaly. And we're like, is it the corporation protecting the anomaly and not letting anybody get to it? Or is it an outside force that doesn't want anyone to know about it? It's the same kind of thing. Is this the corporation taking out a group of scientists / whatever that are trying to excavate or do something that they don't want them to do? Or is this an outside entity that's doing something we don't even know about yet? So I just think that it's tough to theorize, but it's definitely interesting that we got introduced right away, episode 3, to this sec unit / person wearing the black suit.
Yeah, I don't know if I know enough to make an educated guess. My guess would just be Viva la Revolution. That would be my only take, which is not a very serious take. It does seem, though, like with the pacing of how things have been going, we'll probably get some insight next episode, 2 episodes. Even, in 2 episodes, the picture might be even more clear. 3 episodes, we might be, and exactly, what the ingredients of the dish are. So,
and I know this is supposed to be a comedy in a way. I'm laughing at certain times with Alexander Skarsgård, but also when you're watching something sci-fi like this and you have most likely an overarching plot point of, Kyle, like you're saying, maybe revolution or the corporation controlling these sec units, there is more drama as well. So I am very surprised. And it is kind of refreshing to have a show 22 minutes long that's trying to do this. I'm only really used to like sitcoms or shows like that are going to be 22 minutes long. It's been a long time since I watched a television show like Murderbot that's going to be so easily digestible. And I would have to assume the pacing is going to be turbo drive because of it. I mean, we're 3 episodes in, and I feel like, 3 episodes in, and it's really 1 episode of normal TV, 60 minutes.
They did say, some of the comments, that this is confirmed. The first season's confirmed to only cover the first book.
Okay.
So that means and then a lot of the comments were saying it really catches its stride in, book 2, 3, whatever it is, which is normal for a longer series like this. So I don't know. I do think they're just going to keep it pedal to the metal. And I think now, the more that we're talking about it, to me, it feels like the best guess is that these black sec units are there to prevent anybody from getting to that anomaly. And that includes just absolutely killing and wiping out all the expeditions, meaning that our Preservation Alliance probably would have been the next up target if they didn't single out the group themselves and go to Delphal. I think that this black sec unit would have been sent to kill them too, to stop them from exploring further, because they almost got there, right? And then but that seems like a good path to somehow connect the anomaly, because the anomaly was very unconnected to this episode.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and
we made it there. We
really,
made their job a little bit easier. We went to them.
Yeah, and we really don't know enough, but is it that...
Did you say damn? Damn, we fell into the trap.
I know, we thought we were doing good, but apparently not.
Yeah. Is it something where the corporation is literally just like, all right, we'll sell you a sec bot, a sec unit, and
you run such a fun balance between
unit,
literally saying sex bot sometimes.
I know. A murder unit and a sec bot but is it that the corporation is literally just like, hey, you can tell us what you want to do. We'll sell you the sec unit. We'll allow you to go there. But then because you chose the area we don't want you to go, sorry, bro, we're going to take your ass out. Is that what it is?
To follow through on
like my evil.
Yeah, it's not going to be that. If it is turning out that the black sec units are there under the leadership of a different faction to wipe out and protect the anomaly, I don't think it's going to be Corporation Rim involved now. I think it's more like hidden secret faction. And this is all just, I probably changed my thoughts 3 times throughout this episode, but that's kind of where I'm at now. And I feel pretty okay with that going into episode 4.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
And it's funny to say, but is that it, guys? Are we done this
Yeah.
episode? I mean, we
Yeah,
don't want
I
to take an hour to cover a 22-minute episode, so
right.
Yeah.
I do want to call out how funny it was when Roddy was talking shit on himself about the weapons training. He's like, so
yeah.
stupid. And he's like, we can still hear you. And he's just going off on himself. That was probably the funniest moment of the episode. Maybe we could
Yeah.
start doing that, is trying to get the moment or the quote that made you laugh the loudest for each
Okay.
of these episodes. Just add another little piece at the end of these podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
My parting shot will be that I'm clocking the fact that when they asked, Menza asks Murderbot, like, "Are you good?" You know, it's all good after the activity log stuff, with the pause, and internally, it's thinking, I don't know what's in the dark recesses of my programming. And, you know, that's tongue in cheek, could be a little jokey joke, but also,
Mhm.
as we've seen from the memory
Yep.
that it has of that 7 to 8 to 9 second clip of what seems to be clearly just murdering people. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Mhm.
What is the dark recesses of the programming?
Obviously, something that's very underlying is, why was Murderbot refurbished? So we're gonna get that. We're gonna get, hopefully, some connection with Murderbot in the group, but we're also gonna get some answers with these other possible SecUnits / people in the suits. But otherwise, guys, my parting shot's going to be, keep on hitting us up with some answers here. Don't spoil anything for us, of course, but I think you guys were pretty perfect at giving us just enough information that we need to know without spoiling anything. Hit us up on Discord, hit us up on YouTube, or the Spotify comments. We're here. We'll be answering all of you guys and shouting you on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll be back next week. Give us some time. We're a little messy right now because we don't know anything in the first 3 episodes, but obviously, as we learn more information, we'll be able to form these theories better and be able to get some more thoughtful comments out. But for now, that's
I'm
it, guys.
thoughtful.
We're always thoughtful. We're doing our best over here. We're actually too thoughtful, probably, with what we're trying to say. But guys, if you're a fan of Murderbot, you're a fan of sci-fi, I'm assuming you're going to be a fan of Foundation. Me and Kyle have not seen Foundation before, mostly because we knew we were going to cover this on the podcast. This is a TV show that Luke was hyping up to us. A lot of our friends on the Discord were hyping up to us. Me and Kyle decided it's just time to wait. We'll wait till season 3. So it's time. Very, very soon, if you're listening to this recording, we had probably already recorded episode 1. We're going to check out the pilot. Me and Kyle for the first time. Luke, as a veteran, someone who loves the show, is doing a rewatch. And then we're going to cover episodes 2 through 5, and then 6 through 9, and then the finale of season 1. We're going to be covering season 2. We'll figure that out as it gets a little bit closer, but we will have everything completed right as season 3 drops on July 11th, and then we will be covering season 3 week to week. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be the same exact crew. We'll be doing it on the Core podcast, so hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, if you like listening to Kyle, then check out Binge Empire. He's covering currently The Last of Us. We have 1 more episode left of that. That podcast covers a lot of the bigger non-Apple TV shows, so check that out if you like our coverage. And otherwise, guys, we'll see you next week. We're excited. Murderbot. Once again, we are the Core Podcast, and thank you so much for listening.